All right, guys. Good afternoon. So let's go through the Lois Tyson episode of traditional gender roles and how she is bringing in or dragging in the kind of gender roles or the stuff called patriarchal relations or patriarchal woman, those kind of connotations, which including the protective the or the nurturing and submissive kind of women, those kinds of attitudes which happen during the latter part of the 20th century in the United States of America. So, what Lois Tyson is saying is that basically all women in the current America is kind of they are recovering from the so-called patriarchal woman, the patriarchal bindings which they were forced to keep all through their lives, and these are sometimes called the traditional gender roles. And she's saying that men are always strong, they are being depicted as strong or rational or protective, or even someone who is a kind of savior is being depicted as men in general. On the other hand, you can see that women are normally picturized or is being treated as weak or irrational or nurturing and submissive, even in the literature as well. That's as per Lois Tyson. So, and one of the other features of the patriarchal the form of relations is kind of women are being treated as they're not fit for jobs. They're not fit for jobs, so they're not fit for maths. They're not fit for engineering. These kinds of approaches were there, general approaches were there in the patriarchal society, which is there in the latter part of the 20th century. And even now, also, Lois Tyson is saying that even now, also, you can find a lot of examples from the current American society as well. So, there is another thing that she would like to bring in to our notice, to especially for the students of literature, or students of especially feminist literary criticism, is that the same kind of job in the market is being treated or is being given to uh, men and women in a different manner. Even they are paid in a very different manner, because the male staff will be paid more. On the other hand, you can see the female staff will be paid less for the same kind of job. That's the kind of discrimination which have been following all through the years during the last part or the latter part of the 20th century. There is another thing that Lois Tyson uh, is bringing to our notice, is that the sexist connotation of patriarchy, in the sense that sometimes, as you know, that there is a term for the over anxious or the eccentric kind of behavior from a woman is being called hysteria. And this hysteria, normally, or it's the root word for hysteria comes from a Greek word named hystera, which means who the inner part of the reproducing area, the reproducing organ in a woman's body, hystera. So there also you can find this kind of discrimination by giving a specific term which is related to a woman for a kind of behavior which is for both, which is actually for Lois Tyson saying that, or even we are also knowing that we know that this same kind of behavior, the over anxiousness or over eccentric behavior, some kind of kind of hysteric behavior, is not only seen alone in the women, but also you can find that in men as well. So that's what she's saying. That this is why the language experts have given such kind of connotation for uh, hysteria, because they are being ill treated, in the sense that they have been ill treated by giving such a name which they consider or women consider as the most prestigious organ in their body. So uh, it's kind of, the feminine eccentricity has been treated it, or it's been called or termed as hysteria, which is absolutely wrong as per Lois Tyson. I mean, why men are not given the same status, because they are also over eccentric at times, and they are not being treated in such a manner that women are being treated, or women are being called hysteric. On the other hand, you can see men are being called when men or male persons, they behave in such a manner. The society used to call them, well, because he is a short-tempered man. He's not hysteric. We don't say that that person is hysteric. Instead, we say that he's a short-tempered man. That's absolutely wrong as per Lois Tyson, or from the liberal kind of feminist approach from Lois Tyson. Yes. Oh, basically, so feminism distinguishes between, what we can call the word sex or and gender. Word sex, or the biological constitution as female or men or male, and the gender. The next term is gender. So the basic uh, distinction between the word sex and gender is kind of, it's a kind of programming, the programming which has been done by the society. And if you say that he is a man or he is a male, the boy is a male, the boy, the child, or the child is a male, in the sense that it's been given by, it's been you know denoted or depicted or being carved or molded as in such a manner that the society would like to say, would like to encourage saying or calling that child as a boy or a male, in that manner, which is called the biological constitution. Or on the other hand, the gender constitution, the gender construction is done by the society. The gender construction is done by the society in the sense, we used to say that in gender, you say that this particular boy is masculine. So masculine is kind of the which includes all kind of characteristics which are required for a male. Similarly, there are some specific attitudes, a specific programming which is required for a female as well, and that's why female are being treated or called by the society as feminine. That is gender. So that's the difference between sex and gender. So sex is a kind of biological constitution, the natural kind of constitution which is male or female, uh, just to identify on the basis of the biological constitution of a child. On the other hand, gender is being decorated, it's been carved or ornamented by the society by saying this guy is male, this guy is masculine, this girl, child is feminine. So that the characteristics, the attitudes determines whether this guy is feminine or masculine. In that manner also it works. Sometimes now some of the guys are also called uh, or they are also being treated as in with the feminine nature. So so basically, what she's saying, that the Lois Tyson is saying, is that the superior position of men is to make women inferior and to keep them away uh, from acquiring social status. So social status in the sense all kind of social status. Just keep the women, ladies, getting or acquiring jobs from all kinds of economic or political or social power. Uh, it's a kind of superior, the male-dominated society, the patriarchal kind of society. Um, but they used to deliver the world, the universe in such a manner that they have molded the world in such a manner that, especially the United States of America, in such a manner that women are not supposed to grow above men in all aspects, by all aspects in the sense, not economically, financially, they should not grow beyond men. In such a manner, in politically also, in politics also, women are not supposed to grow. beyond men. So in society also, women were given less chances. They were not even less chances. They were not. They were tried to, keep them away from. They tried to keep them away from, acquiring social status or economical status or political status. That's absolutely right during that period. Even now also it is happening in the modern American society as well. So there is something which is highlighted in the second part of Lois Tyson's essay in the traditional gender roles, is that something called patriarchal programming. So women are not good for this kind of programming which is happening even from a very young age, that the girl child is not good. You're not good for this particular job. You're not good for this particular discourse. You're not good for this particular course. This particular subject, in fact, and sometimes we used to say that girls are not good for uh, maths and engineering and in the extreme level of science, scientific research, and but it's happening. This is kind of cultural programming which happened, the patriarchal programming which happened at a very young age for a girl. It's kind of, they are trying to, the patriarchal society is trying to oppress the girl's ability, their ability, and they try to, you know, deliberately weaken their attitudes and, you know, the talents which they were involved in. So women are not good for kind of machine operation and other jobs which require physical effort. So instead, they've been ridiculed. Women have been ridiculed, bamboozled, or cheated by even the repair technicians when they visit their home for repairing and all. Because they also think that the male repair technicians also think that this lady they want, she does not have any idea about what I'm doing here. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game which happens within that situation as well. Yeah, and girl children are programmed in such a sense that they're not good for doing maths, engineering. These are things like the patriarchy is creating a failure by all means. So the the core of failure among women is nothing but patriarchy, according to Lois Tyson. Yeah, Tyson had the opinion that even men or boys are also being deceived. They are also being deceived by the so-called the socially constructed gender roles. They are deceived. Men are also equally deceived. They are also, you know, in the sense that the men are not supposed to cry any at any instance. They're not supposed to cry. They're not supposed to, sympathize for their friends, relatives, or anyone. So they're not supposed to do such kind of things. Those are reserved for women or girl child. So if such a thing is happening, so if a boy, if a man is crying, if you see such thing happening in the society, what will happen is that the society, the patriarchal society, will treat that particular guy or that boy as sometimes has a feminine character, or sometimes you call them homosexual, because they are you know, um, very well showing sympathy towards the same kind of gender, the same kind of so the same gender, in fact. It's kind of homosexual attitude as per the patriarchal society. That's kind of the male programming as well. So the girl programming is there. The cultural programming of a girl child is that you're not good for this, you're not fit for these things. So that's a kind of oppression. But here in male programming, it's kind of you're not supposed to do this because you are a man. You should show some kind of power. You should show some kind of spirit. You should not show sympathy towards others. You should not cry, and things like that will be there when it comes to the programming, the cultural programming of the genders, this patriarchal programming in male childs as well. So it's kind of men are not supposed to fail at anything. They're not supposed to fail because they are born to win. Just the kind of patriarchal attitude. All right, that's good. Yeah, Miss Tyson is in between the traditional gender roles. Miss Tyson is bringing in certain examples from the literature as well, from English literature, especially from the children's literature. She's bringing in, the Snow White, Cinderella, the Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast, and things like that. The children's literature part. It's just to showcase the aspects in a feminist outlook. In a feminist outlook, not from the outlook of a reviewer or from a critic. It's from a feminist outlook, and she deliberately says that all the three tales shows that it has got the main character is of course a young beautiful lady or a girl. And what happens to her, that she's been treated ill-treated, that she's been locked in a room, she's locked in a castle and things like that. And what will happen is that at the end, a young charming and dashing young man will come for the in order to rescue that girl. And finally what happens is that after rescuing, they used to marry together and they happily live forever. So that's kind of patriarchal attitude, by saying that if you are good, if the girl child is good, if you're showing some kind of kindness and virtues in your life, what will happen is that you will get a good guy for as your husband. So things like that was there, just to promote the patriarchal goals, the hidden patriarchal agendas. And sometimes the main characters are depicted as either good or bad, in the sense that the good characters are mainly the leading characters, the heroine mainly, and the bad characters, sometimes you can see a lot of witches coming around with the stories. So the good characters, the characteristics of a good the heroine within the literature is, she should be gentle, she should be virginal, she should be angelic, some kind of all kinds of virtues should be there. Some mixtures, amalgamation of virtues should be there for the young lady, in order to acquire the hand, in order to get a good husband, or so things like that. But for a bad character, for the negative character within the literature, sometimes you can say the lady itself, a witch maybe, she is violent, aggressive, a demonly character has been depicted there. So if you're violent, if you're aggressive, if you're demonly, what will happen is that you will end up in trouble. So things like that are deliberately being positioned or programmed into the minds of girl children. And even the current American society, when it comes to the current American society, Lois Tyson is saying that it demands women to be extremely pedestal. So extremely pedestal in the sense that they have to, in order to be successfully juggling her career and family together. So they should have a proper mixture of their career and family. They need to manage the career well, they need to manage their job well, they need to manage their office well. At the same time, they need to manage their husbands, their children, their home, their grandparents, maybe sometimes their in-laws, things like that. People like that will be also taken into consideration if you have to be of the to be a very good woman in the society. So great at office, kind of great at the breakfast table, not too tired when you come back from office. Yeah, you should showcase some kind of clean atmosphere in the house, and attend to her children by all means, and even they need to please her uh, husband by all means as well. So things like that should be there by all means. Yeah. So patriarchal gender roles are even more powerful than any time before. Even now, also she's saying that Lois Tyson is saying that patriarchal gender roles are even more powerful, and it is still not eliminated from the society. And even she is saying that I am trying to recover from the patriarchal viewpoint, patriarchal kind of approaches in which I have been molded, I've been programmed. The repressive attitude of patriarchy still existing in even in languages. Towards the end of the second part of Lois Tyson's essay, she's saying that the repressive attitude of patriarchy is still existing in languages. With two examples, she's saying that, as the term, the word slut, for its negative connotated word in order to depict a woman who sleeps with a lot of men, while on the other hand, you call a man who sleeps with a lot of women as stud, which stud is a kind of manly attitude, a positive attitude, while on the other hand, the term slut is in fact negative attitude. So the previous being a negative and latter a positive one. So even the attire, the dress of a modern woman have to be, it has to be debilitated, the kind of the feminine walk and easy access to her body. So things like that will be there. The attire also changed. The dress of a female of a woman has changed a lot, which have, at the moment it says the dress, the attire has given easy access for a man to acquire the body of a woman. That's what these are some of the kind of arguments or you know some blaming, some kind of complaints that are being raised by a modern liberal feminist approach by Lois Tyson. So it's entirely different from the real feminist approach, which is equally, which is not equal, which is in a sense it's violent, which is one-sided, which does not, which does not like or they don't like to treat men as equal. Even they need to go beyond the status of men. Other things like that will be there when you compare the realistic feminine or feminist approaches and the liberal feminist approaches. All right, so we'll stop for the day with this particular topic. The second part, which have given a lot of inferences, a lot of examples about the traditional gender roles. All right, so now we'll have a discussion about the other parts of Lois Tyson's textbook or Lois Tyson's essay, in fact, about feminist literary criticism in our later part of the in the later part of our of course the classes. All right, and thank you so much, and thanks for listening. Have a good day.